Dallas Goedert will be the biggest winner from Kellen Moore's arrival in Philadelphia. All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Marcus Mosher and Kate Madjuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Kate Madjuk. Follow her on Twitter at Kate Madjuk. Check out her work at Pro Football Focus, Behind the Steel Curtain, and Yahoo. On today's show, we are going to be discussing the biggest winners from the new offensive coordinator hirings around the league, including what's going to happen in Detroit if and when Ben Johnson leaves. But Kate, I want to start in Philadelphia. Old friend alert, Kellen Moore, formerly the offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys, has gone to the Philadelphia Eagles. And I just want to say, I think this is fantastic news for Dallas Goedert, because you look at the history with Kellen Moore and tight ends dating back to Dallas. Look at the numbers that Dalton Schultz posted when he was with the Cowboys. I got to believe that this is going to be a huge boost to Dallas Goedert's dynasty value.
What's pretty incredible, Marcus, about the history with the tight ends, it actually did kind of translate fairly well to his time with the Chargers, that very short stint with the Chargers. 21.7% of the targets last year went to the tight end position. Now, that's middle of the pack, but they actually ranked top 10 in total targets to the tight end position, which works out mathematically just because of their pass-heavy approach. But what is incredible is that they did that while throwing to kind of like a myriad of tight ends without a clear sort of tight end one. Obviously, you had Gerald Everett, you had Donald Parham, you had plenty of bodies there, but you had no clear standout top end receiving tight end. And I think the difference here is that Dallas Goedert is going to fit that mold super, super well. Now, there are going to be people that are questioning what Kellen Moore is going to be able to do in his first year with the Eagles. Now, obviously, you mentioned his former stint with the Cowboys was with that team from 2019 to 2022, had a very successful run. But in 2023, we actually saw a dip in production from the Cowboys roster to the Chargers roster. Saw declines pretty much across the board, points per game, yards per game, yards per play, like everything was down for Kellen Moore. But I gotta say, as bad as the numbers kind of look and might have people wondering, is Kellen Moore a product of, Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys, or is he actually a capable OC? I gotta say that I do think injuries just played a massive part in the Chargers' just entirety of their game plan. Obviously, you had Justin Herbert, who was out end of season, but he was banged up all year long. He had, a injured finger even like in mid-season, which made him pretty much incapable of snapping a ball under center for a good portion of the year while he was dealing with that. There was a lot of, I think, circumstances. Obviously, the injury to Mike Williams, you had Keenan Allen banged up, you had Quentin Johnston, who was definitely not ready to step into the role of, a true wide receiver one. All of that Kellen Moore had stacked against him. This season just didn't come to fruition the way that I think it would have had they been a bit healthier.
Yeah. I want to give a couple things on Kellen Moore's offense, because I've studied it a lot. What I think you're going to see is fewer shots down the field to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And in exchange, I think you're just going to see more passing volume, which is probably a good thing, right? Like what they do, or what Kellen Moore specializes in, is like the middle of the field throws, like the 10 to 20 yard throws. And if you're a Dallas Goedert owner, that's what you love to hear. You want to see him going up the seam and catching passes on the run. You want to see him just getting more targets. They're going to run that play action boot about 70 billion times this year. So keep a lookout for that. I think the offense it's going to be dynamic. It's just not going to be down the field. I think you're going to see Jalen Hurts under center some more. I think it's a little bit of a weird fit, Kellen Moore in Philadelphia, but I think for Dallas Goedert in the running backs, I actually think this is a big win.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of potential here, and maybe a buy low window here in Dynasty when you look at the value of Dallas Goedert, because obviously he had himself a down season, obviously also had some health issues there. But Dallas Goedert, I mean, you look at, kind of that 29, 30-year-old window, that's kind of that peak kind of point of performance for Dallas or for tight ends in general. Dallas Goedert, 29 years old. Right now, sitting as the tight end 11. And I do think you look at the potential, you look at the upside of this offense. Let's disregard what we saw from this team here in 2023, because again, they also dealt with some issues with health. They also dealt with the loss of their OC, who, Shane Steichen went to the Colts, and I don't know that they transitioned away in a fantastic way. But if this offense is going to favor the middle of the field, Dallas Goedert, I have to imagine, is going to be a very, very big part of that. And Marcus, I think a part of that also stems from the fact that, he really can function as this team's primary slot receiver. I mean, you didn't really have anybody that stood out. You had Devonta Smith leading this team in total targets out of the slot. Dallas Goedert actually ranked second on the team in targets out of the slot. If he is healthy and plays a full 17 games, I have to imagine that he is going to lead this team in slot targets by a significant mile, unless maybe they look to add more of a slot wide receiver here in the draft. But Dallas Goedert got to be a huge winner.
Yeah, Dallas Goedert. I'm not really knocking AJ Brown at all. I might knock Devontae Smith a little bit. Just historically, that number 2 receiver in Kellen Moore's offense is just very inconsistent week to week. But Goddard to me is easily the biggest winner. I want to talk about his price tag later. No, not today's episode. We've got too much to get to, but just overall, Dallas Goedert is somebody that I'm going to be targeting at the tight end position this offseason because of the coordinator change. Okay, let's move on to a different situation. We've got Zac Robinson, who is officially the offensive coordinator now in Atlanta. What does that mean for Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and whoever else is on that offense? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snack, and placing some Super Bowl bets. I will tell you, my favorite bet every week or every Super Bowl is the octopus, not the octagon, the octopus bet, which is, will a player score a touchdown and then score the 2-point conversion afterwards? It hit last year with our guy, Jalen Hurts. One of the most fun bets that you can have. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3 or 4. Not only can you bet on who will win the Super Bowl, but you can also bet on who will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers, join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports partner of the NFL. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We want to let you know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Okay, let's talk about Zac Robinson in Atlanta, because I'm fired up. You look at like Sean McVay's coaching tree. All of those guys that have left have basically gone on to have success. We've seen what Mike McDaniel, he was under Kyle Shanahan, but we've seen what Mike McDaniel has done in Miami. You've seen all these other guys leave and have a lot of success, basically under the Shanahan McVay tree. What are you expecting here from? What are you expecting from Zac Robinson and the Atlanta Falcons?
Offense. I'm expecting some offense. And I think that this could be an opportunity here for us to actually properly evaluate the Atlanta Falcons offense for what we're hoping them to be. Now, obviously, you look at the coaching tree, you look at the fact that he comes from Sean McVay, all of those are green flags everywhere. I mean, the commentary, obviously, we haven't yet had the opportunity to see Zac Robinson calling plays, but being under that tutelage, that counts for a lot. And the consensus seems to be around the league that he is one of the quote unquote brightest offensive minds here in this up and coming generation of coaches. But the only question, Marcus, like I think, is the quarterback position. What is he going to be able to do? How bright do you have to be to make this offense shine without a true quarterback? Or do you think that this is a signal that, hey, we need to go out and get a quarterback and we're going to
Yes.
be aggressive about it? Because I look at what we've seen out of Desmond Ridder. I liked Desmond Ridder coming out of the draft. I thought he had a chance to develop from a mental quarterback into more of a physical one. It did not translate. But what is Zac Robinson going to be able to do with this cast and characters if he doesn't have a quarterback?
I think he's going to go out and get one. And it's going to be probably a veteran that can run the offense. Maybe they flirt with Baker Mayfield, or they go out and they try to get Kirk Cousins. I think they're going to try to bring in a veteran quarterback to run this offense. And I think if you're a Drake London fantasy owner or a dynasty manager, I think you're really excited, because what we've seen from Sean McVay and Zac Robinson with the Rams is that they love to put their best receiver in the slot, create mismatches. I mean, you look at like size wise, Drake London and Cooper Kupp aren't all that different. I think Cooper Kupp is a better route runner, but Drake London is 22 years old. I just think rather than pushing him way out on the side as the X receiver, you're going to see Zac Robinson move him inside, put him in the slot, get him easier targets, some of those layup receptions to get him going. I love Drake London's fit in this offense. And I think I'm going to love it even more once we find out who the quarterback is, Kate. Maybe it's like a Ryan Tannehill. I know that's not the most exciting name in the world, but somebody like that can just get these receivers the ball accurately. I think I'm kind of all in on Zac Robinson and the Falcons.
I think my biggest question maybe, so let's assume the quarterback is all taken care of. We haven't really seen Sean McVay's offense feature the tight end position
No, it's
super
weird.
heavily
You're right.
historically. So, and it's not to say that, Tyler Higbee, a pretty solid NFL tight end. I wouldn't call him one of the best receiving tight ends in the league. So maybe it's a product of not having one of the best receiving tight ends in the league. But I mean, just this past season ranked 5th in tight end target share. And this was an offense that we saw had plenty of passing volume, and not much of that went to the tight end position. So my biggest question, I think, probably stems, assuming the quarterback position is taken care of, is this a hit for Kyle Pitts or is it not? Because obviously Kyle Pitts can play the X receiver, he can play the slot, like he can do anything that a wide receiver can. Does the tag of being a official tight end designation in the league hurt Kyle Pitts in
Maybe.
whatever offensive scheme we're going to see?
Maybe. He's one of the ones I'm not sure how he's going to fit. I would assume, though, Zac Robinson's a smart guy. Worked at a little company called PFF that you and I happen to work at. He's going to figure out a way to get both of those guys involved. One more thing I want to mention here with Robinson. Kind of historically, we've seen that Sean McVay in that offense uses a one-back set. And once they find a running back, they just ride him. We saw that with Kyron Williams this year. Like, there were games where there just wasn't another running back that even got a touch, right? I think if you're a Bijan Robinson fantasy manager, like, this is so exciting. This is going to be a very Bijan friendly offense. I think all of these guys outside of Kyle Pitts are buys for me. I'm excited. I want to talk about Ben Johnson, Kate, because it does sound like he's going to leave either for Washington or for Seattle. But there was a recent hiring that I want your thoughts on just really quickly before we move on. The Pittsburgh Steelers have officially hired Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator. I just want your early thoughts because this is happening as we're recording.
Oh God, you are literally getting my live. I have not seen this piece of breaking news yet. Oh my God. You're getting my live reaction, folks. My general reaction is that this could be very good for the kind of offense that the Pittsburgh Steelers want to run. My big concern is that this is not, I think, a type of offensive coordinator that I'm going to trust to develop Kenny Pickett. And it seems like they want to give Kenny Pickett all of these opportunities to develop. That being said, if they want to run the ball, pound the ball, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren combined for 35 touches a game, Arthur Smith could be the guy. And maybe that sets up, some successful play action. Maybe that sets up some efficiency in the passing game. But do I think this is good for the actual development of Kenny Pickett? No. Which that in and of itself is what is officially concerning to me.
We know Arthur Smith likes to use a lot of different running backs. We saw that with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier in Atlanta last year. What a segue from the Falcons, now Zac Robinson, to Arthur Smith in Pittsburgh. They're going to run the ball. I think they are going to be more efficient in the passing game. You look at like what Arthur Smith did in Tennessee when he was the offensive coordinator there with Ryan Tannehill. Like I think was it 2018 and 2019? Ryan Tannehill led the NFL in yards per attempt, completion percentage, passer rating. So maybe he will be able to get those quarterbacks. I have no idea who's going to be more efficient. I just don't know how. I don't know if this necessarily makes Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph a better fantasy option. And I certainly don't think it makes Deontay Johnson or George Pickens all that much more exciting.
No, but the run game, Jalen Warren, probably a huge winner of this. Najee Harris, a huge winner of this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Najee Harris should have a huge bump in his value, especially once the Pittsburgh Steelers exercise its fifth-year option, probably in the next coming weeks. So, Arthur Smith, your new offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh. Kate could not be more excited. Just look at her face. Let's talk about Ben Johnson, Kate, because it does seem like he is going to leave for a head coaching job. How much will that hurt the entire Lions offense? We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's what brings home the winning trophy. And it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. Kate, I want to ask you about Ben Johnson because it does seem like he is leaving the Detroit Lions. We just don't know where yet. We don't know who the offensive coordinator is going to be yet for the Lions either. But how concerned are you if you are a Jahmyr Gibbs dynasty manager or a Sam Laporta dynasty manager or Amon-Ra St. Brown? What's your level of comfort right now?
I don't know how to give this a number, Marcus. I'm going to say maybe a 6 because I do believe this is a very, very talented offense. Here are my concerns, though. So looking back at last season, of the coordinators that got promoted to head coaching positions, obviously the biggest name, Shane Steichen, who left the Philadelphia Eagles for a head coaching position with the Indianapolis Colts. And I think there are plenty of factors that came into play for the Eagles and their demise. A lot of those struggles were on defense, but I think everybody can acknowledge the fact that we didn't see the same kind of offensive success for the Eagles this season than we did last. And I kind of wonder, we've seen a lot of success under Ben Johnson. We've already had kind of the main phase of the hiring cycle here play out. Obviously there's already been a bit of a carousel here in terms of offensive coordinator hirings. One more that just came off the table, Arthur Smith.
Yeah, baby.
You kind of had the first wave of positions has kind of played out already. And that is part of the disadvantage of making this deep postseason run. If you are going to have a head coach that's going to, or a coordinator that's going to be promoted to a head coach, because that does put you behind in terms of the hiring cycle. A lot of these top end offensive coordinator candidates, they've already found their landing spots. So from a talent, perspective, from a long-term dynasty perspective, not overly concerned, but I have to question, after seeing the fallout with the Eagles last year, if we might not see the same kind of deflation here. And if we do see some sort of deflation in terms of their overall efficiency, is there going to be enough to go around for all of these assets?
Yeah. I think the good thing is Dan Campbell is a good coach. Now, he's not a play caller, but he is an offensive minded guy. He was a former tight end in the NFL. He was a tight end coach with the Saints before becoming the head coach of the Lions. So I trust that he's going to be able to figure out how to get this offense to be good. Plus, they just have so many weapons, and the offensive line is good. They've got an established quarterback. Like, they probably can just lean on a lot of what Ben Johnson was calling before. I will mention Mark Brunell was their quarterback coach, a former quarterback in the NFL, a really good one with Jacksonville. I would have to assume that he's going to be a likely candidate to replace Ben Johnson. He's been there the last couple of years. I love when you have the former quarterbacks that are calling the offense. They just have generally a pretty good feel how to call games. I do think it's going to be a knock, but not enough for where I'm moving a guy out of a tier. Like, I'm not moving Sam Laporta out of the top tight end tier. And I'm not moving Amon-Ra St. Brown out of a tier as well. So let's see how it plays out. Let's see how they hire. Let's see if he even does leave. There's still a chance that maybe you get Dan Quinn goes to Seattle and the Washington Commanders hire Mike McDonald from the Ravens and Ben Johnson stays. I think in this one situation, kid, I'm going to exercise some patience here. I just think the Lions, they are a good organization with a good coach, with a good roster. I think they're going to figure things out.
I mean, this is one of the most, I think, fundamentally sound rosters in the league right now. Very balanced roster, both on offense and defense. And obviously that balance does help complement, especially the run game here. If you promote from within and you're kind of integrating a lot of the same offensive concepts that have already been in play that we've seen work, and you have somebody that has that level of familiarity with the players, their skill sets, the plays that they've been called that have worked well for this team, all the better. But yeah, I think you have to exercise a little bit of patience here. I still have a little bit of trauma from Shane Steichen and seeing how that played out last year, because I do think he was a component, right? And you look at the Chiefs and Eric Bieniemy leaving, and I do think that was a component. Obviously, Eric Bieniemy can't help the dropped balls, but
no,
I do think that these changes, probably, a little underrated in terms of wondering what went wrong this season. Chiefs have got it together, and obviously we didn't see the Eagles get enough time in the postseason to figure it out down the run. But yeah, offensive coordinator can matter. Just in terms of dynasty value, I'm not sure how much this loss should really impact value.
Because if it doesn't work out this year, I'm sure they're going to go out and get their version of Ben Johnson, maybe a young up and coming quarterback coach.
And it's an attractive OC position.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. With all that talent. So let's just wait and see how things play out here before we go too crazy. Because remember, just a couple of years ago, Ben Johnson was a relatively unknown coordinator. that Dan Campbell helped develop. And now look what they did. They went to the NFC Championship game. Probably should have won it. So just be patient here. And I expect good results. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, we've got Matt Williamson. He's going to be answering your mailbag questions. So make sure that you send them in to us. Go check out the channel on YouTube. We post videos every single day over there. Go download the podcast. It's free and available on all platforms. Follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Modjuk. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and we will see you right back here tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.